Hey McVic. To be honest with you, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to say for this week's devotional on racial justice. I'm the only person of color on our staff, and I'm one of only a few people of color who attend our predominantly white church. There's a bit of a pressure to say just the right thing, because sometimes it feels like I might be representing all people of color to those of you who are watching. And for some of you, I might be the only person of color that you see on a regular basis. I wonder, will you think I'm being too angry or divisive or overly critical of white people? Or will you think I'm not being angry enough or doing enough about racism in our society? So I thought I'd just share with you a little bit about my story and where I am in my journey to racial justice and reconciliation. My parents are both immigrants, born in the Philippines, and because of the American colonization and occupation of the Philippines, English is one of two official languages for the country. And my parents were fluent in English when they arrived in the United States in the late 60s and early 70s. A few years after they arrived, my brother and sister were born, and a decade later, I was born. And so with my siblings in middle school and high school, I pretty much only heard English at home, with the exception of a few Tagalog words and phrases and private conversations between my parents. I never learned to understand or speak Tagalog. For the first 4 years of my life, our family lived in Stamford, Connecticut, where my parents had a close group of Filipino friends who celebrated birthdays and holidays with large gatherings and plenty of food. And then we moved to Bucks County, PA, which is where I grew up. It was, and still is, a predominantly white suburb. And as I started going to school, most of my friends were white. Out of the seniors pictured in my high school yearbook, 460 students were white. And I was one of 35 students of color, 7%. For every student of color, there were 13 white students. But being in the minority didn't make me feel more Asian or make me feel like my Asianness was on display. It actually made me feel white. While my mom made Filipino food often at home, I thought that was the only thing that made me different from my white friends. And for the most part, I considered myself a normal white American. So much so that when I started college at Messiah, I didn't join the Asian Student Association because I thought I wasn't Asian enough. I told people I was culturally white, and looking back, I don't know if I said that out of shame or out of pride. It was only 12 years ago that I realized there are parts of me and my life experience that were uniquely Asian and Filipino. And then after graduating from college, I started discovering this community of Asian American creators on YouTube. Musicians, dancers, beauty gurus, and filmmakers who were sharing their talents with anyone who would watch or listen. And it was through their work that I started to develop a connection to and pride in my Asian identity. And it's been only in the last few years that we've seen the normalization of Asian representation in Hollywood and mainstream media. 2 years ago, when Crazy Rich Asians came out, I was overcome with emotion because I grew up having the Yellow Power Ranger and Mulan and Keiko from Zoom as the only people in movies and on TV who looked like me. And it wasn't until I saw an all-Asian cast that I realized, how much I had been missing. And so what does all of that have to do with racism, racial justice, and reconciliation? I have a lot of learning and catching up to do. Today, I can honestly say that It's an honor just to be Asian, but for most of my life, I didn't embrace my Asian heritage. I essentially identified as white. And along with thinking I was white, I thought I didn't have to care about racism. Aside from a few ignorant comments, I had been generally unaffected by racism growing up. And I recently learned that that wasn't the case for my other Asian classmates. So now I'm dedicated to learning and sharing what I've learned about injustice that affects people of color, especially our Black neighbors, and the ways that I have been complicit in letting it continue. Pastor Susan and I recently signed up for Be the Bridge 101. It's a class designed for white people to learn the foundational principles in bridge building, including history and terminology. And while I'm not white, I think it will be a helpful way for me to learn some of the basic ideas surrounding whiteness, something that I grew up thinking of as the norm. And it's a way for me to walk alongside those of you who are taking some first steps, some important first steps toward racial justice and reconciliation. And if you're interested in joining that class, I'll provide a registration link in the description below. Lastly, I want to say thank you to all of you who are taking steps to becoming anti-racist, whether that's by listening, learning, advocating, or confronting your own internalized racism. It's hard work, but it's well worth it.